Allison here again. I did this little video separately, still on the same subject of anxiety, but there was a time recently that that God intervened because I couldn't tell myself to stop the anxiety. It was something that I don't remember ever experiencing before. When we first got the news about Mike and the shocking news that he had 6 aneurysms, aortic aneurysms, and that he needed surgery soon, right away, I found, it was shocking news, and we talked it through, and Mike was pretty cool about it from what I could see and how he was reacting to this news. My reaction to it was, it just got so self-centered. I was thinking, there is great danger in these aneurysms bursting and the person dying instantly. It was a miracle that they were found because he actually had a test for something else, and they discovered 4 aneurysms, and then he was referred to a vascular surgeon, and he did another test and they saw more, so up to 6. And the good news was we really liked the surgeon and felt very confident in him and his ability, of course in God, but in the midst of it all, I'm thinking, okay, we need a good doctor, and I don't want to be a widow. I went right to that, I'm sorry to say, but it wasn't all the time, but I did have these waves of thoughts on how am I going to get through life without Mike. And what ended up happening was my sleep patterns changed. I went to bed feeling anxious. I would sleep, and then I would wake up whatever time, and my heart was racing. I knew that it wasn't because I just thought about the situation. I was already in a very physical state of anxiety just as the moment I woke up, and this went on for a few weeks. I knew I was in trouble because even though I was telling myself to stop it, it wasn't working. I felt now that really it was more like a spiritual battle. I have a few friends, close friends, that I would share this with, and I have to admit that I prefer praying for people than asking people to pray for me, and there's probably lots of reasons behind that. But I did share it with a few people. And I believe after that, even before I shared, even with another friend who lives in Ottawa, she contacted me quite out of the blue and offered to come and sit with me in the hospital while Mike was having surgery, and this was early January. I knew that was God. She felt very prompted to contact me to offer to spend time with me in the hospital. Unfortunately, days before Mike's surgery, she got sick with a bad cold and couldn't come. In the meantime, I'm messaging back and forth. People are checking in, many of you from Grand Manan, and friends here. And it was just such a beautiful thing that the Lord was prompting people to make contact, and it always seemed to be when I needed to hear from someone. And then the day of the surgery, I said goodbye to Mike. He's off getting pushed away to go to the OR, and I by this time, and I hadn't eaten, I went to the cafeteria where mostly the hospital staff are, and just the acoustics of the room, the volume of noise, conversations and dishes and whatever was so loud that I put earphones in my ears and listened to CBC on the radio. Well, yes, on the radio, on a live show that they were filming at the time. And the live show was people calling in who had had loved ones or their personal contact with people with the plane that was shot down not that long ago. It was so sad. Joe's drinking again. It was so sad to hear these people who knew of someone who had gotten on that plane and the story behind it. So I'm listening to the call-in people. I'm starting to cry, listening to the very sad stories. And then I thought, okay, stop. I took the earphones out and I thought, no, I have to not listen to that right now. And then I hear my phone ringing. Well, no, sorry, just to back up. I didn't hear my phone ring because it was so loud in this lunchroom in the cafeteria. So not long after I had this phone call, when I picked up my phone, I think just to disconnect from this radio show, I see that I have a missed call. And it's a missed call from a dear friend from Community Life Church. And I won't name her, but she felt prompted by God to call me. And had I heard the phone ring, I'm not sure I would have picked it up. I was so distressed. I didn't really want to talk to anyone as much as I love this person, and I knew she was calling to speak to me, and I'm assuming that God has prompted her to call. I just thought, Lord, I can't right now. It's too noisy, but I'm just not, I was too upset to speak yet. So I think I texted her back to say thank you. I can't talk right now, but anyway, it was my cue to get up and out of the noisy room and the stress of all of that. So as I walk out of the lunchroom, I hadn't noticed before, but right by the elevator, there's a door that says prayer room. Really? I thought to myself, this is fabulous. This is God. And boy, don't I need a quiet place to go to right now and pray. So I went in, there wasn't a soul. It was a lovely little room with, I don't know if it was a pulpit, but lots of chairs and just a beautiful quiet room and decorated really nicely. So I had already picked up a coffee and something to eat, and I sat in this room and just put my head back and closed my eyes, and I was just enjoying the peace and quiet. And then I hear the door open, and it's a woman, and I believe her husband, that she was pushing in a wheelchair, and it was obvious to me that they were Muslim. And she came to the front of this little room and opened a door and took out a little carpet and then started praying, as they do, to Allah. And I was fascinated by it, actually. I watched her do her prayer ritual and speaking out loud, and then she was finished, put her carpet away, and got her husband, who was in the wheelchair, and left. And then this went on. I think I was there about half an hour, and I can't tell you how many people came in and out, but it was mostly staff who work at the hospital, and they were all doing the same thing. Eventually, I said to the Lord, this is amazing. What it was doing was completely distracting my mind from my situation And I found that I began to pray for these Muslim people, that they would know Jesus. And I had a little chuckle with the Lord, because he knows what I need, and he knows what you need in times where you don't know what to do, perhaps in a situation that's really hard. So I believe God intervened spiritually. Well, obviously he does, but it wasn't something that I could do myself. He was the one that directed my steps to go in the prayer room and to be with all of these amazing Muslim people that are so dedicated in prayer. But mind you, it's out of fear. It's not, I'm sure they love their God, and but the ritual, I believe, of praying 5 times a day, and I don't really know a lot more other than that. But my little conversation with the Lord in my mind with him was this amazing experience of what he was allowing me to see. And at one point, he said to me, I believe he said, every knee will bow. And I started weeping. And I believe God was saying to me that they will come to know Jesus. So the Lord, I believe I heard him say, every knee will bow. And I wept, and I felt so full of joy and peace, and that I was meant to be there. I was meant to be distracted by God in his plan to turn off this awful thing that I was having anxiety about. That was not true. And then eventually Mike's surgery went well. He had an amazing recovery. He came home the next day. The doctor was amazed at how he had no pain. Now, he had discomfort from surgery and etc., but his recovery was so quick. And I did make contact with the friend who had made the phone call, and I wanted to encourage her that she heard from God and she was obedient to call to check in on me. There was a lot of course, concern for Mike and all that was going on, but this was very specific for me, and I wanted her to know that she heard rightly, and the timing was perfect, and it was just a beautiful thing that God had done. Since then, Mike has had his second surgery. That was about 3 weeks ago, and his recovery is good. It's a little slower because it's involving the knee, so a knee recovery, from what I understand, in anyone's circumstance in surgery is just a bit slower. But he is doing well, and we're looking forward to, as I say, moving and especially getting back to Graham and Ann. So that's all for now. Bless you guys. Bye. Today is April the 2nd, 2020. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and we're moving into this lovely little brick house. The guys are trying to figure out how this armoire is going to go up the stairs, and all the best, guys. And this is where we're moving from, right next door. Isn't that cool? Can't see it for the sun. And that says always movers. Great guys. And there's Joe. He's just waiting. Staying out of the way.